Again, I want to welcome everybody here this evening. And as I often do on settings like this, I invite you to eavesdrop in because I'm not preaching to you. I'll be preaching to you 13, I think. So you're welcome to eavesdrop in, but I'm excited to just preach to you. Oftentimes during the school mass homilies, and certainly the case on Sundays, I've got to worry about preaching to a lot of different age groups, and it's an opportunity just to preach to you 8th graders here. Before I get into my 3 points, I think it was either today or yesterday at drop off or pickup, Mr. Hupp, we were just talking about your class and how every 8th grade class is different, and he just made the comment about how this is a special class. I think the word that he used is like he said they're kind to each other. It's a great group, and I know all your teachers sitting here and behind you would echo that statement from Mr. Hupp. So 3 things: a step, the only thing that really matters, and a few Father Mark nuggets for you to keep in your back pocket. So first, a step. So the word graduation, the Latin root word for graduation is gradus. And that's where we get the word step. And so it's a step towards something. When we say graduation, the Latin root word, it's a step to something. And the question becomes like, a step toward what? Certainly, it's a step toward high school. It's a step to, after high school, it's a step to college. And a step to those things, is good. And it's to be celebrated. And your parents, teachers, myself, we want you guys to know, this step that you're taking on that front, we're proud of you, and you're to be celebrated today as you take this step. But on a bigger picture, you want to take a step toward the only thing that ultimately, at the end of the day, really matters, which is their second point. There's a 19th century French writer, Léon Blot. He wrote novels and plays, and most of his novels and plays, he snuck in his favorite line in pretty much everything that he wrote. And his line that he loved to repeat over and over again was this. He said, "In the end, life offers only one tragedy: not to have been a saint, or not to have gotten to heaven." You just think about that, using reason is that's right. You can reach the heights and you can take the steps, whatever path, from high school graduation, you can take the steps and you can get to the top of the steps, graduate all the way up to whatever. And if you end life not a saint, or if you end not in heaven, that's the only tragedy in life at the end of the day. Because the only thing that ultimately really matters at the end of the day is to become a saint. It's to get home. It's to be with Him who created you. And so what you've heard me say many times, and it's worth repeating on graduation, it's fitting today, it's if you become the 50th president of the United States, and you call wherever I'm at the time and say, all excited, Father Mark, you never believe it. You probably saw it on the news. I just got elected the 55th president of the United States. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to find out if you got there and you're a cheat, you're a liar, you just mistreated everybody on the way up to get there, you're a man or a woman of not high moral character, and if you don't know Jesus, and you call me, and I find all those things out, what am I going to tell you? What am I going to tell you? You remember? What am I going to tell you? Allison, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? I'm going to say, don't tell anybody that you went to Notre Dame. If you're the president and you're not high moral character, you don't know Jesus, just tell them you skipped K through 8, right? Or you didn't go to Notre Dame. Mother Teresa once said, God did not put you in this world to be successful. He put you in this world to be faithful, to be in relationship with him, right? To follow him, as we heard in our gospel today, to be a saint, to get home. Which brings me lastly to a few Father Mark nuggets to keep in your back pocket. And really these are things that you know as what? 13 years old. These things you know deep down in your heart. But they're things that in the coming years, you're going to be tempted not to follow. There are things that you've heard in one way or another. All 5 of these things you've heard throughout your years here at Notre Dame. You've heard me say these 5 things, I know for sure, in one way or another. And these 5 things the Lord wanted you to hear. So if anybody who's eavesdropping in has a problem with any of these things, don't complain to me about them, complain to him, God. Okay? Because that's what he wanted them to hear. And they're straight from the Bible. So first, in these years ahead, most especially, don't get drunk. Like, getting drunk is stupid. It really is. Like, literally, it's stupid. The definition of stupid is having or showing great lack of intelligence or common sense. Why is getting drunk a sin? Because when you're drunk, you're not free. What's the point of freedom? To love. You're made for love. When you're drunk, you're not free. If you're not free, you can't love. That's why Proverbs chapter 23:21 says, the heavy drinker and the glutton will come to poverty, meaning they'll be deprived. They'll be left wanting. They'll be left wanting of what? Love. What you're created for. But you'll be tempted in the coming years to, like, you'll hear that in order to have a good time, you've got to drink too much to take the edge off. Be confident enough in who you are to say, I can have a good time without getting drunk. Because getting drunk is stupid, and it's a sin too. Secondly, don't let social media keep you from love. Social media can be good. It is a good. But don't allow it to replace authentic relationships. Because only in authentic relationships can you be loved and love others. And social media has a tendency to distract you from what is real. It has a tendency to distract you from what is important. It has a tendency to distract you from your responsibilities. And as you get older, you will have more and more responsibilities. And the temptation for social media to distract you from more and more of your responsibilities will become greater. So as soon as you find yourself maybe using social media to compare yourself to others, and oftentimes that's the unrealistic views of other people's lives, get rid of it. As soon as you find yourself doing that, get rid of it. Because you were made for love. So don't let social media keep you from love. Third, don't have sex unless you're married. You're going to hear otherwise. You're going to maybe be pressured otherwise. It's like, that's the old way of doing it. That's the old way of thinking. God designed sex to be good and desirable and holy. And he designed it to be in the context of marriage. When a man and woman who love themselves enter into a lifelong covenant relationship and say, now that we're in a lifelong committed relationship, I'm going to give myself completely and fully to you, my whole self. Now, none of you are getting married tomorrow, right? Your parents aren't going to let that happen, right? So that means you got to strive to live a life of chastity here. And John Paul II once said this. He says, chastity is a difficult, long-term matter. One must wait patiently for it to bear fruit. And that fruit, he says, is for the happiness of loving kindness which it must bring. And he says, but also at the same time, chastity is the sure way to happiness. Because God's way is always the right way. Always. God's way is always the right way. And it always leads to fulfillment, to life, and love. Fourth, love and honor your parents. These years right now, and probably the last 2 years, and the next couple of years ahead, like you're going to think that just about everything that comes out of your parents' mouth is crazy, okay? Okay, fine. Still honor them. Still love them. Because they love you. And what's the definition of love? It's to will the good of the other. Remember, love is not a feeling. So your parents may not have the best feelings about you. You may not have the best feelings about your parents at a given time or a given thing that they say, but know that they love you. And love, the definition of love, is willing and wanting the good for the other person. Lastly, 5, the fifth golden nugget. I had 20, so you're lucky I'm only giving you 5, okay? Fifth, remember who God is, that he's love, that he's mercy. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to sin. We do. I do. And maybe some of those mistakes are going to be the things that I just mentioned. Some of the things that I just mentioned. Never forget who God is, that he's love, that he's merciful, that he'll always be there with his arms wide open, welcoming you back home. He died on the cross for your sins, for your transgressions. And you're gonna make transgressions. That's why he went to the cross, to save us and to give us abundant life. So put him first. Put him at the center of your life as you take this step. As you take this step today, make sure it's a step in the right direction. Certainly to high school and to college, of course, but on a macro level, make sure that it's a step towards sainthood. To become a saint. A step toward him who went to the cross for you and who is love and mercy itself.